Good morning and thank you for joining us today. It is our pleasure to welcome you to this presentation of the online platform Resource for Legislators. My name is Nina Eisen and I will be your moderator in today's session. For those of you not familiar with IRENA, the International Renewable Energy Agency is an intergovernmental organization mandated by countries around the world to promote the widespread adoption and the sustainable use of all forms of renewable energy. IRENA currently has 143 members, and around 30 states are in the process of becoming members. It is clear, policy is key to lowering barriers and creating opportunities for the uptake of renewable energy. In many countries, parliamentarians play a significant role in the decision-making process that shapes both energy and related policies. The IRENA Secretariat is therefore starting to engage more systematically with members of parliament. With this engagement, IRENA tries to increase the awareness among legislators about the benefits of renewable energy. We are doing this by disseminating accurate, relevant, and up-to-date information on renewable energy. With this, the agency hopes to support legislators in their efforts to introduce an increased share of renewable energy in their countries. My colleague Marina de Blonay will provide you with a few more details on IRENA's engagement with legislators.
In support of this aim, IRENA has issued the first edition of its review for parliamentarians. This digital publication, in the form of a periodic brief, compiles relevant renewable energy information and knowledge tailored to the specific interests of legislators. Every issue will place a focus on a particular theme and will feature a discussion on policy, costs, or the wider benefits of renewable energy. Its point of view section is offering a platform to legislators to share their view and experiences. On 15 January 2016, the day before the sixth session of the Annual Assembly of IRENA, the agency will host its first Legislators Forum in Abu Dhabi. The meeting will be a unique opportunity for legislators to discuss the transformation taking place in the international energy system and the way forward in the direct aftermath of the COP21 in Paris. Through expert presentations as well as peer-to-peer interactions, legislators will be invited to examine and discuss current renewable energy topics and trends that are of specific relevance to them. The creation of effective policy instruments and frameworks will be a central component of the agenda. If you have not done so yet, for the meeting, we invite you to register your interest with the IRENA Secretariat via legislators@irena.org until 3rd November if possible. Today's webinar will assist you in finding renewable energy data through Resource. Research country-specific details such as renewable energy policies and potentials, and search through the IRENA database for the latest publications in your field of interest. Before I hand over to our panelists, let us give you some practical advice. We would like to encourage everyone to participate in today's session by asking questions. To do so, simply select the question panel on the right-hand bar and enter your question. We will be collecting questions throughout the webinar. If you would like to watch this webinar again or share it, we will send you a YouTube link via email. If we are unable to answer all of your questions during today's session and you wish to connect to our panelists, send your questions to legislators@irena.org and we will do our best to answer them. So without further ado, I would like to briefly introduce our panelists for today's session. Our speaker today is Stephanie Becken, who is the Associate Program Officer for Data and Information at IRENA. Since January 2014, she has been working in IRENA's Knowledge Unit, where she focuses on data and information management. Stephanie's activities include the Knowledge Gateway, data dissemination, and statistical analysis. Previously, she worked for the Canadian-German Chamber of Industry and Commerce in Montreal, Canada, where she was the Managing Director for the Regional Office for Quebec and Eastern Canada. I hope you all enjoyed the webinar, and with that, I would like to hand over to Stephanie, who will give you a live demonstration on Resource.
Thank you very much, Marina, and welcome to all of you to this webinar on resource. As Marina mentioned, I'm an Associate Program Officer in IRENA's Knowledge Unit, working mostly with renewable energy data and information. I'm very pleased to be able to guide you through our latest knowledge product, the resource, as you can see also on your screen, Renewable Energy Information and Data Platform. What I will try to do throughout my presentation is to showcase how we can deduce useful renewable energy information for your daily work in support of the legislative process you're involved in by using this platform. My presentation will be structured in 4 parts. The first part will deal with a short overview on IRENA's knowledge strategy overall. And then in the next 3 parts, I will give you a practical overview and showcase how you can use the knowledge platform as a library, as information hub on specific countries, and also if you're interested in data and statistics. So why do we need renewable energy knowledge, and what does IRENA do to promote renewable energy knowledge in the world? As you might know today, a lot of countries have set ambitious targets for their own renewable energy future. Our latest publications on renewable energy targets showcase that we have overall 144 countries that have targets and policies in place to promote renewable energy. Also recently in New York, the Sustainable Development Goals were put in place, and particularly IRENA's work focuses on the Sustainable Development Goal number 7, and that deals with doubling of the share of renewable energy by 2030, energy access for everyone by 2030, and increasing the share of energy efficiency around the world. However, there are still technical and non-technical challenges, slowing down deployment and preventing investments to get up to the scale required for renewable energy deployment, which is also, of course, related to missing information in the sector. For instance, if you take the finance sector, there's still a perceived risk of financing renewable energy, since the lack of information or transparency of information is missing. Hence, there's a strong demand to create more public knowledge and awareness for renewable energy, and also create a hub that provides access to trusted, accurate information. This information might also be crucial for you as decision makers and will be of relevance in your daily work as legislators. Improving the relevance and the accuracy of renewable energy information is one of the main objectives of IRENA. And as such, also the Renewable Energy Information and Data Platform resource was launched at our assembly in January 2015. The intention of resource is to provide an online access free of charge to dynamically capture and illustrate renewable energy growth patterns. Resource links to all IRENA's knowledge and the entire IRENA's IRENA's library, and provides information to all topics related to renewable energy. And this is what I will demonstrate to you in the next part of this presentation. So first, if you look, and we'll go into the, let's say, more practical part of this presentation. If you look at your screen, you will see the interface of resource, which will perhaps remind you of Google itself. So you will see a search bar in the middle. You will have a section on data and statistics that will lead you directly to the statistical portal of IRENA. You have a section that is related to country profiles and a section that is related to renewable energy information. So here we have information on, for instance, solar energy, hydropower, ocean, bioenergy, etc. So what I will do is we will first look at the first functionality of resource itself, which is the library. So we will start with a simple query. For instance, if you are interested in solar and what information IRENA has, particularly on solar. So you will type in the query solar in the search bar, and you will see here the search results that appear. So basically a catalog of publications and information that we have on solar energy. I will guide you through the page a little bit further, so you can then narrow down your search. On the left side, you have the different filters, so you can filter down by results that include, for instance, publications on solar and wind energy, but you can also see that we have the most information on solar energy on the US, Germany, India, and China, and then you can also see the different initiatives and the sources where the information on solar energy is coming from. For instance, the IRENA homepage, but then we also have a lot of other initiatives that have information on solar energy, such as the Renewable Energy Learning Partnership, IRELP, the IEA IRENA Joint Policies and Measures database, which I will explain specifically in the next part of this presentation when we go to the country profile page. Also of interest here is that we have a lot of results for solar showing up in one of our other initiatives, which is the Global Atlas for Renewable Energy, which is basically a resource mapping tool on the different renewable energy technologies available. So we will also see that in the country profile that I will show you momentarily, that we have maps that specifically showcase the potential for solar irradiation in a given country, for instance. And then lastly, perhaps I will not go through all the initiatives, but please feel free also if you have any questions to either contact us or ask your question throughout the webinar, is the REMAP 2030 initiative. I mentioned in the introduction the Sustainable Development Goals number 7, and that relates directly to one of the main work that IRENA is doing and trying to map the energy sector and the potential of renewable energy by 2030. One other topic that IRENA is currently doing a lot of research in is basically a related technology to renewable energy, such as storage. And then here again, you will be able to see that we have come up with quite a lot of numerous publications that relate to storage, whereas the main publication that we released is the second result you see on this page, is the report on battery storage in 2015 that will showcase and explain to you a little bit more how renewable energy and storage can interact. I clicked here on the little thumbnail to show you the preview of the publication, which is a nice little technical feature that we included, where you can see the table of contents of the publication, and that might also affect the search and the relevancy of the search that you're doing. Lastly, since you might be the most interested in policies or targets or legislation that is related to renewable energies, you can also query directly policies, and you will see all the publications and information that IRENA has directly linked to policies. One of our latest work that we did is basically policy briefs on Latin America. So that might be of interest if you are working with Latin America, or you're interested in seeing also how renewable energy policies are developing in Latin America. So we have here a compilation of briefs on each Latin American country. So this gives you an overview on the, let's say, the basic structure of resource when it comes to the library and the search results and queries. The second functionality of resource is really dedicated to giving an overview on renewable energy deployment in a given country. So here we have made a map where you can select a country while you hover with the mouse over the given map, or you can select a country from the drop-down menu. So for the purpose of this webinar, we tried also to see which geographical area we will cover. So we decided to cover one country in Europe and one country in Asia. So the first country that we selected, and this is just to give you an example, we have information on renewable energy for 193 countries. So you can select any country you want after this webinar and see what kind of information you can find. So here we are on the country profile page of Belgium. You will see on the right section that we compiled information on renewable energy that is related to Belgium itself. So, for instance, that a 250 megawatt biomass power plant is basically under construction and will begin operation in 2016, and further news. We also have a section on events, so major renewable energy events that will take place in Belgium. On the core of the page, you will see a main graph that is related to installed renewable energy capacity and the growth of renewable energy deployment over time, which should allow also users to give to have a first impression of how renewable energy and how the sector looks like in the given or selected country. If you hover the mouse over the given bars, you will see that mainly solar with almost 3 gigawatt installed in 2013 is the main driver in Belgium, followed by other renewable energy sectors such as hydropower, wind power, and bioenergy. In the country profile page, we also tried to basically synthesize the information by topic. I mentioned before one of Irina's initiatives, the Global Atlas, which basically does a resource mapping of renewable energy technologies, which you will be able to find in the Resource Assessment tab. Then we also have information on generally the energy sector and capacity for Belgium. And here you will see country profiles that will also include Belgium in the European Union. You can also see what kind of policies Belgium has put in place for the different technologies. So first the publications, but then as you might have seen already in the library, we have a joint policies and measures database that we co-host with the International Energy Agency in Paris, where we track all the policies and measures of all renewable energies worldwide in a database. So here you will see directly the results of the incentive programs and policies that Belgium has put in place for renewable energy. You will also find information on finance, such as costs of renewable energy related to Belgium in the country profile page, and the scenarios until 2030, so the evolution of renewable energy growth patterns for reaching the main sustainable energy for all and SDG 7 targets. So that would close the first example for the country profile page. The second example we wanted to show you is the case of Pakistan. And then here again, a similar structure to the country profile page that we just saw. With the news, the events, you will see here that we have a little bit more information because Asia, Africa, and Latin America are one of the core regions Irina is doing some work in when it comes to renewable energy mapping on the maps. So you see, for instance, the solar potential, wind maps, etc. Then again, the country profiles for Asia that covers more general information on the energy sector, the different policies Pakistan has for renewable energy deployment, for instance, net metering policies, but also a lot of other interesting policies such as for biogas and biomass. On the financial side, we have quite an interesting publication on mechanisms to foster renewable energy deployment in developing countries that also include Pakistan. And then for Remap 2030, Pakistan is one of the countries that we also analyzed. So for the country profile pages, we showed you Belgium and Pakistan. That gives you quite a good overview on what kind of information Irina has given or specifically related to a given country. If you're interested in more numerical data and statistics, we also have our resource data portal where you can find on the right side different topics that relate to renewable energy. So just to give you an example, we have what we call dashboards, or also statistical data on power capacity, education, levelized cost of electricity, employment, investment trends, education, etc. So what I will try to do here is very shortly to walk you through the most relevant dashboards for your work. So you can also get an impression what kind of information you will be able to find in resource. So in the power capacity statistics dashboard, you will see that we have the most up-to-date data for 190 plus countries in the world when it comes to capacity statistics. What is quite of interest is, and here we have a ranking of the 10 most important countries when it comes to renewable energy deployment, with China in first place, followed by the United States and Brazil. But you can also have a top 10, for instance, by technology, and you will have the filters on the right side, such as for bioenergy. You can also filter it down by sub-technology. So for instance, if you're interested in liquid biofuels, you will see here that Italy is the leader. But then also you can see the different and filter by different regions. If you are more interested in, let's say, charts that are related to a country and an overall overview of technologies, we have another visualization that will show you the overall growth of renewable energy over time from 2000 to 2014. Here again, you can, for instance, filter by region. So let's choose, for instance, Asia, and you'll see the growth of Asia over time. We also decided to give the users the ability to compare countries and the growth of countries on different levels. So if I select, for instance, China and India, you will see the combined growth of these countries over time. So that gives you a short overview of the capacity data that we have. If you have any questions, please feel free to answer, to ask in the meantime. The next dashboard, or the next data section that we wanted to show you is related to financial information in renewable energy. I mentioned before that the financial sector, and especially investments in renewable energy, are considered still quite low when you see the targets that have been set until 2030. So currently, and that the chart in front of you also shows, we are at $270 billion in 2014. Most of this investment is in solar energy, followed by wind energy. We are currently working on mapping investments needed until 2030, but I can also already give you a little preview that the numbers that we expect are 2 times, 3 times higher than what we currently have with the $270 billion. One of the main progress renewable energy has undertaken over time is the reduction in levelized cost of electricity, also compared to fossil fuel technologies. So this dashboard in front of you shows you the comparison of levelized cost of electricity for solar PV across the different regions. You will see that Asia ranks probably as the lowest market for LCOE when it comes to solar and PV, followed by other countries such as North America, South America, Middle East, and then Europe. You can also compare different regions and how the technology cost plays in different regions. So again, if we select, for example, Asia here, you will see not big surprise that hydropower is still has the lowest LCOE cost, followed by onshore wind, biomass, and geothermal energy. So we covered the energy sector with the capacity dashboard. We covered the financial investment sector with the investment and LCOE dashboard. But we also work a lot when it comes to socio-economic indicators of renewable energy, which are also an important factor when influencing policies in renewable energy. Some of you might have read that the latest numbers IRENA released in renewable energy employment amount to 7.7 million jobs, up 0.7 million from 2013 with 6.5 million jobs. Most of the jobs or employment in renewable energy that IRENA accounts for are in solar PV with 2.5 million jobs, followed by liquid biofuels and wind energy. Of these jobs, most of the jobs are in China with 3.5 million. In the Remap 2030 scenario, we try to analyze how many jobs we will need until 2030 to basically also account for the rapid increase in renewable energy deployment. And the current number that we have in our publications and our analysis is at 16 million jobs. So you see here that there's still a big gap between current employment and future needed employment to basically reach the 2030 targets. This also implies that renewable energy education will have to increase over time. And our Renewable Energy Learning Partnership, IRELP, summarizes in a database all the renewable energy classes and courses worldwide. So this gives you a little bit of an overview on where and which regions feature the most prominently when it comes to renewable energy courses. No surprise here, Europe as #1, followed by North America and Asia. But if you remember that I just mentioned the number of renewable energy employment in China at 3.4 million, this also means that Asia, or specifically countries that have high renewable energy growth rates, will have to also scale up education programs. We saw the education by region. We also analyzed the education by topic. The largest share of renewable energy courses are accounted for in multi-technologies, which simply means that it's more than one renewable energy technology, so it's a course on, for instance, wind and solar energy. But then the second highest ranking education we analyzed is in solar energy, and followed then by a really big gap in wind energy. So for the data section, that covers more or less the short data overview that we have. On the right side in the menu, you can see the different other dashboards or data that we have. We are adding to these continuously, so please look at this every 2-3 weeks, since we're updating the numbers on a regular basis. So I will hand it back to my colleague Nina for questions.
Thank you, Stephanie, for your presentation. I'm now opening the floor for any questions that you may have. And I see actually that we did already receive a number of questions, and maybe I can read out one of them and combine it with another one. There is a question that relates to how the data is updated on a per country basis. How accurate is the data? Because it seems there's a concern that legislators need to always rely on very accurate data, obviously. So the question is, how do we collect it, and how often do we update our data?
Okay, that's a very good question, and a question also that IRENA gets fairly often. The collection of data differs from the topic. So perhaps I will explain a couple of examples and then also mention a little bit about accuracy and transparency and reliability of the data that we collect. For energy data, so for renewable energy capacity data, for instance, we have our statistical questionnaire that is sent out yearly to our member states, to the relevant ministries. So, for instance, ministries of energies or ministries of statistics. And basically, the questionnaires are then filled out and sent back to us, and in a continuous dialogue with member states, we update these numbers. However, in energy statistics, as you might know, we always have a gap year of 1 year in official statistical data, because governments report with one to 1.5 years of a backlog. That means we rely on informal data, which is data that we receive from industry associations, for instance, but also on the project level. So, for instance, what kind of bigger project or plans were built in the last year. So we track these continuously. So that's for the energy data. For data that is related to investment and costing, we rely heavily on what we call our Costing Alliance, which is a partnership between different private industrial stakeholders that provide us confidential information on a project level on the different costs, which we then aggregate to a country level or a regional level or a technology level to give a, let's say, a good overview on the levelized cost of electricity of a given technology in a given country. Other data that we collect, for instance, on employment or on education, are mostly done in partnership with different stakeholders, for instance, with governments, with industry associations, as I mentioned earlier, but also with different research institutes when it comes to accounting for education. The second part of the question, so the question when it comes to the accuracy and the reliability of the data and information that we have, is a very good question. I believe that everyone who works in data will know that data is always very difficult because to have accurate and up-to-time data or up-to-date data is always a challenge. What we try to do, and this is also why we work heavily with our member states, is for historical data to go back and really communicate with the governments and the members that we have to ensure that the data is as accurate and reliable as possible, which then also ensures a baseline for the future data sets that we have. For example, for capacity data, we will basically, with industry associations, determine a number of, like a megawatt or a gigawatt capacity increase for 2015, beginning of next year, that then will be confirmed up by the government end of 2015.
Thank you, Stephanie. Just, I think there's a follow-up question. I think that fits very well with this. I think you mentioned governments, industry, and research institutions that provide us with data. What about our collaboration with other international organizations, for example, the IEA? Can you say a few words about that?
Sure, with pleasure. So IRENA also works with other international organizations to compile data sets. So we all have amongst each other the most accurate data sets possible. For example, we collaborate with the IEA on the policies and measures database that I just mentioned and showed before, but we also collaborate with the IEA on energy statistics and exchange regularly on renewable energy statistics that we collect at IRENA and IEA collects itself. We also work a lot with regional associations. I can mention perhaps two, in Latin America, OLADE, and in Asia also APEC, that collect themselves information from their member countries when it comes to renewable energy statistics.
And then there's another question. Can we search for historic and projected growth of rooftop solar by country, updated with the respective legislation?
Okay.
Resource.
Okay. So yes and no. So basically, you can you can search for historical solar PV data. We don't make a distinctions between rooftop and utility, unfortunately, yet, although in the questionnaires that we send to our member states, we make the differentiation. So that's something that we're working on in the future. And when it comes to policies that are in place, we have on the specifically our IEN policies measures database website, also the different chronological history in time of the different policies and when they took place. So I would invite you to visit the website.
And then there's another question that came in that pertains not so much to resource, but the question was for us to repeat again how to register for the in January 2016. Sorry. We encourage all legislators to send us their expression of interest to participate in the meeting as soon as possible, because we are in the middle of planning and we would need to know at some point how many are interested in participating. This is the very first meeting that ARENA is hosting. It is, as we mentioned, back-to-back with the ARENA Assembly, and we are targeting all members of parliament that are interested in renewable energy, and we would encourage you to send us your expression of interest to legislators@arena.org as soon as possible. And then there is another question on renewable energy training courses for Africa. And so,
okay, so perhaps because the question, sorry, Omar, is not quite clear to us regarding training and data, but I will try to give you a short overview on the activities we do in capacity building on statistics, but on also other sectors in renewable energy in Africa. So we have in Africa a couple of initiatives, and Africa is definitely one of our regional focus areas at ARENA. First, we have what we call the Renewable Readiness Assessment, which is basically in consultation with governments. We provide potential avenues for increased renewable energy deployment over time. So as the title already says, it's really a readiness assessment for renewable energy, and we covered countries that are quite advanced, such as Tanzania, but also countries that really require still a lot of information and data on renewable energy, such as Djibouti. We also provide a lot of different workshops on capacity building that are related, for instance, to statistics, but also related to assessing resource potential, so solar radiation, wind speed, etc. Last year, we also had quite a big initiative for solar installers in Africa, and currently we're working on an initiative which is called the African Clean Energy Corridor, which basically will allow governments to, and specifically utilities, to have increased information on how to promote their grids in favor of increasing renewable energy shares in their overall energy mix.
If there are no other questions, I think we had quite a few questions now, but if there are no questions, then I would say before we conclude today, I would like to encourage you to complete a short survey about today's webinar, because that will help us improve our webinar series in the future. You will now see 3 questions popping up on your screen, and you will simply need to select your choice of answer. So we would be very grateful if you could participate in this poll. Thank you very much for your feedback, and thank you especially for participating in the webinar today. And please do not hesitate to be in contact via legislators@arena.org in the future. Thank you very much.